You're running a shop floor, not a Pinterest interest board or a fantasy football league. You don't need inspiration, you need things to work. So welcome to Build Your Way, a podcast from Cetec ERP. This is a show for manufacturers who are in it every day, from quoting and shipping jobs to troubleshooting quality and material shortages, all while staying a step ahead of what's next. We bring you stories from the field, lessons that stick, and strategies that actually scale to help you build better. Let's get to work.
All right, welcome back to the Build Your Way podcast. I'm Taylor Wagen, and this is
Scott Ryan. And this episode, we have the fortune of having Matt Miers from S&Y Industries on with us this week.
Hello.
This is your chance to say long-time listener, first-time caller.
It's true story. True story.
Big fan.
What do you want to
Big
talk
fan.
about?
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for being with us, Matt. We're
we have you on because we've enjoyed interacting with you, and if we can have a little banter about who you guys are and what you're up against, what you've done, and then that crosses in our space nicely. So
yeah, it crosses right into your space. Actually, you guys, Cetec has been a big help in a lot of the stuff that is pretty difficult around here.
Awesome. Well, you are with S&Y. Can you give our just an overview summary of who you guys are, where you are, what the situation is, lay of the land?
Yeah, S&Y is a contract manufacturer for electronic assembly, so printed circuit boards, wire harnesses, box builds, anything that's got electronics in it. That we do everything stateside. Our owner, Sandy, who S&Y is just Sandy with some spaces. We have to explain that a lot. Like, I don't know, it's weird. But she started about 40 years ago. Her husband was a VP up in Wichita for aerospace and also an electrical engineer. And the dude is 85 now and still doesn't stop. But at that time, he was coaching his kids' baseball team and had a little hobby farm and was also etching boards on his back porch with all the chemicals that you're not supposed to have. And somebody asked him if he would populate the boards, and he said he just didn't have the time. But Sandy was at that meeting and said she'd give it a shot. So she bought a book on how to solder and started making parts for airplanes, which is a little terrifying, but it worked out well. And then they grew and moved to Winfield, Kansas shortly after that. And it just has kept going. So now we're about 70,000 square feet and 100 and some employees, kind of on the low end, 110, I think. But we do service mount. We have 4 lines, all kinds of wire harness now, even for like big car haulers. It's been a wild ride. It's always interesting. I will give it that.
So are you guys still in aerospace?
We are. We do aerospace, medical, and commercial industrial.
Okay.
Aerospace goes up and down quite a bit. Right now, it seems to be doing okay, but it's almost guaranteed to fall off because aerospace. Medical is like a pretty continuous growth for us. And then, of course, commercial industrial, it's just all over the place. It's our biggest segment for sure.
Okay. So I just roll back just for a second here. You said that she read a book on how to solder and then threw some things on the board and they went and flew it in a plane?
Actually, yeah, it was for Kelly Manufacturing, which is a smaller company up in Wichita. And she had never touched a soldering iron, like didn't know anything about it, but she was the assistant to Mary Beach for Beechcraft for a long time. And she's a very determined woman. And she thought that there was opportunity there. So she learned how to solder. And actually that company, I think that they were involved in the altimeter for the first around the world flight. So we have pictures of Gary and Sandy with the pilot for I think it was Virgin maybe that did it. I can't remember. I'd have to look at that picture, but it was, it's kind of a cool story.
That's crazy. That was a skilled composites thing back then.
Yeah.
Like the ability to teach yourself how to solder by reading a book. I can't.
Yeah. It was literally like a solder for dummies kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then we hire people on. I think the first employee was the Pizza Hut driver that delivered pizzas while they were working.
That's awesome.
And she was employee number 3. And she stayed on, I don't know, about 5 years ago, she retired. So yeah, we're very much family owned, kind of have that atmosphere. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, I can't teach myself to swing a golf club with YouTube.
Yeah.
I can't.
No way.
Can imagine.
Even with YouTube?
Yeah, even with YouTube.
Mechanical things where you have to like use real hands.
Yeah.
Very, very hard
Yeah.
for me.
My opinion, I have an opinion statement here. I believe that if you're doing aerospace, then doing medical is not a huge jump because they use different
It's not.
terms, but they're basically the same requirements.
Yeah, it really needs to work. So there's 2 different standards, kind of nerd talk, but there's 13485 for medical and 9100 for aerospace. And they were almost exactly the same up till 7 years ago. And now they're like intentionally splitting a little bit. Same idea, slightly different way to fulfill the requirements. But yeah.
Okay. And do you guys follow the same processes when you're doing commercial as when you're doing, medical?
Yeah.
Just so you have the habits?
Yes. They tried to do it, like ease it up for commercial stuff, but with the way that parts are all shared between everything, we just keep the same traceability for everybody. It winds up, we might be a little bit more expensive on some of the commercial industrial stuff, but we also, we don't want to be Walmart. Like, if you want the cheapest, go get the cheapest. You can find that. So yeah, and honestly, we get more calls on the commercial stuff for traceability and, hey, what parts did you use on this? And we think we might than we do for any aerospace medical. Now, granted, like if aerospace or medical calls you up and says there's a problem, there's probably a big problem. So it's a good thing. But yeah, they take advantage of it all the time.
Huh. So parts are shared. I just think that's an interesting comment, kind of given our experience with EMS companies and their part numbering. How do you guys do and manage your parts, your part numbering?
Internal part scheme. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could probably start an entire war with people who listen to this over part numbering scheme. We use manufacturing part number. We always use manufacturing part number, but we were talking. So when we switched over to Cetec, we had talked about going to an internal part number. There's a ton of benefits to it, especially for, if you've got a ton of subs, which in our industry, substitutions for a part are just a nightmare. But when we had switched over to Cetec, you guys had a part spec group so we used that as a hidden internal part number. Mm-hmm. And that was, the brainchild of, I think it was Chintan who came up with it, over at CalcuQuote. So we still get our manufacturer part number, but then, there's a program on the back end that, the demand feeds into that it kind of gives it like almost a many to many relationship. So we can keep track of customer A says you can use part A and B, and customer B says you can use part B and C, but don't ever use A. But you've got all of these orders that are coming in for these assemblies, and we need to know what demand we can consolidate, how we can get the best pricing, and when to get them in here. And it honestly works really, really well. It's a part numbering system, so every now and then there's like a complaint, but overall, the manufacturing part number people are happy. The internal part number people are pretty happy. Although I feel like they gripe a lot more than the manufacturing part, but that's probably an opinion. I really like it. Maybe something better will come along someday, but right now it's kind of, I'm trying not to cuss because I cuss a lot, but, it's pretty awesome. Yes.
Family podcast here. I'm a determined manufacturer part number person, because there are certain industries, and you alluded to this a second ago about, especially with EMS, we have a lot of people say that parts are very, very unique, and they don't see a lot of whole reuse. And our experience is that people see more reuse than they think they do.
Yes.
Especially with COVID, when there were a lot of shortages and people were scrambling, trying to figure out what do you actually have, and I could actually ship this if I swap for the Panasonic resistor, and and it's like there's got to be an easier way, and the easier way is manufacturer part numbers. the problem then they have is like, well, if you're starting with a buy per job mentality, then you have all like, somebody stealing your parts and you're going to be short on this one. You planned for 6 months here. Somebody over here is grabbing your stuff and like, oh, I don't need to buy it. We got tons. And so you have to be able to allocate that. You have that allocation predictability problem, which I like to think Cetec does really well, but it depends on how you set it up and what your process is around it and how are you using the features that we're, guiding you to do there. And then that swap issue where you can say, hey, we can swap between all these things, which CalcuQuote will do automatically for you. Cetec will allow you to choose between them, like if you maintain that as a part spec group. But CalcuQuote will automatically do the swaps for you, which is super cool.
Well, and I had a conversation, have had a couple conversations in the last week or so about flow down requirements and ITAR. And if you're sharing, if all parts are shared, and like Matt, you said that we're doing the same thing for all three industries that we're in. Correct me if I'm wrong. My assumption there is that really actually kind of solves the flow down.
It helps a lot, yeah. And like I agree. I think people share more parts than what they really get a hold of because descriptions aren't really standard. Although DigiKey does a pretty good job. Yeah. And then if you've got more than one engineer designing something, everybody's got their library, but somebody may prefer, Yageo or Yageo, however. How do you guys say, is it Yageo? Yageo?
I don't say it at all. I refuse to. Both. I'll just write it on a piece of paper and hold it up.
Yeah, it looks like this. Or Panasonic, and it could be the exact same part, but they just prefer a certain manufacturer. And then when they send the bill over, if you're using manufacturer part numbers, you're going to put in exactly what they said. And it's totally possible that those two things could live in your system for a long time before you realize that they could be substitutes for each other, which the part spec group really does a lot to solve that problem. We've managed to consolidate a ton of parts, not as many as we should. There's more to do, but like some really good first steps we wouldn't even have known about before we switched to this thing.
That ability to put the parts into an appropriate part spec group and then get, hey, customer, is it okay if, do you approve these, or engineering, do you approve these? That is still an open problem. We are talking with Chintan, who of CalcuQuote fame is now working on some new things. And in a future podcast, we'll talk about that. We have some schemes that he's cooking up, and we're going to integrate to in Cetec to help automate part spec group creation, find all of your possible like parts, auto group them and assign them, and do all kinds of stuff there.
That dude is wicked smart.
He's fantastic.
Yes, he's very creative. Let me know because I will listen to that. I've seen a little of what he's working on.
Because you're listening to all of them.
Spider web. Of course, all of them. But special attention to that one. Yes, that. It is pretty neat. Just a little bit that I saw, and I don't know. His first idea was a home run with this part spec group thing. Whatever we can build on top of that, we would be the first people to jump on it. I mean, without question.
That's awesome. That's
just to see.
All right, a hard pivot here. Can I ask, you're kind of responsible for pretty much everything that happens inside the walls there, right? Is that fair?
Everything that goes right, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Everything that goes right.
What's the hardest problem? If you were to like scope it, I have an answer, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking of. And we mentioned a little bit talking to you earlier, but what would you say is the hardest thing for a small, medium-sized contract manufacturer?
Overall, I think change is the hardest. There's other things like moving things around the floor, wait times, any kind of process improvement, but it all kind of comes with, we need to change something. And sometimes, I don't know, it just depends on the circumstances, whether or not that's going to be an easy try, or you're going to have to do some real work to get people on board to even tweak it. Sometimes people get so personally involved in whatever the process is. Maybe they were part of how it all came to be, and it's almost like you're attacking them if you say, maybe we could do this a little better.
You are attacking them.
Sometimes it feels like that. It definitely depends on the person. We have some that are better than others. luckily, most of our leadership team is really pretty on board with trying new things, failing fast, and seeing what else we can make work. But I think that's the hardest one, like how to present the change so that you get some adopters and it gets going.
So the answer I had in my head, I told you I'd tell you, was less awesome than the one that you gave. I thought you were going to say something like customer acquisition or something. Because my theory is that for a contract manufacturer, you build you build a relationship with a customer, and then you expand business by saying, hey, we can do other things as well. And they trust you, they know you do things. And so when you say, hey, we can do your wire harness as well, and we can do these other things, and they're like, oh, fantastic, that solves this problem for me. But adding new relationships is very slow and very difficult.
Yeah, it is. We have an extremely long sales cycle. Like adding new people for us is difficult. Just on the workforce side, we're in a smaller community. We're just outside of Wichita. So it's not like we have a ton to pull from. That was really how we found you, was we needed something that could scale because we just couldn't hire enough people during the part shortage to keep up with all of the demand and the changes. And it wound up being great. We focused a lot of our stuff on, okay, we have to make sure that it scales because it's not like we can go hire 50 people right now. But we started the new wire harness shop 4 or 5 years ago, and it was difficult to get it staffed up. A lot of it came with new ways to train people, and that was another situation where we had to make some changes. And sometimes that's easy, and sometimes our training was perfectly great and there was no reason to change it, and it was an affront personally to someone to even suggest it. But one of those things that just has to get done.
That's interesting.
Yeah. How do you attack that? Like, I think labor is, even in like Austin, labor and like our regional manufacturing association, labor is the most constant topic where you would think there is an influx of talent and capabilities. How do you attack that in a small town?
Honestly, we
hire Pizza Hut drivers.
I think the small town thing makes it a little easier for us. Everybody kind of knows everybody. So if you're looking to hire a bunch of people, it goes out pretty quick. Now, we fight aerospace in Wichita quite a bit, and they do a lot of hiring cycles. So when they do, we'll typically lose 4 or 5 people, and you can almost guarantee we'll get them back here in a year or so when they do their layoffs. But really, we put ads out on like Facebook and occasionally LinkedIn, and we have a good mix of applicants, but we've been really lucky that we have some good people.
That's interesting. We knew a guy before who was in, what was he working with? Some Austin Manufacturing Training Association that gets, government and industry funds to try to like train people to be hireable in, whatever industries are growing. So like I have a friend who has a shop that does a lot of welding, and they're always short on welders. Yep. You have a shop and you're like, oh, we need people who are qualified with electronics. We need people who are qualified. It's like just getting people with the skills is very hard. And it's funny because there's so much talk about how AI is going to basically take all of our jobs away. And maybe it will, but a lot of those jobs I think are going to be pretty untouched.
They'll be last on the list. Maybe a robot can do them. We try to solder a robot because hand solderers are tough for us. It's still kind of an art. We automate as much as we can with selective solder, but the hand solder part, there's not a lot of people that are really good solderers. So we do internal training, but it's a lot of attention to detail. It's a lot of the same thing over and over again, and you have to be good at soldering, which is it's a pretty small box to fill. So that would probably be our hardest place.
You said you tried a soldering robot?
Yeah, a soldering robot. Yes, we tried one. It sucked. It sucked bad. I don't know if we couldn't set it up right. Maybe that's the case, but engineering came up with it. It was a super cool robot. It was when we were doing a bunch of ventilators. So we'd maybe built 100 of these things in a year, and it was during COVID, and I think it was GM that got the contract, and we had to build 70,000 in 3 months. And we first told them no, and GM was like, okay, we'll call you Wednesday and you'll tell us how we're going to do it. And we were like, oh, great, whatever. And they called Wednesday, and it turns out they were serious. So we were just pitching out ideas. So we got this solder robot, and I don't know, we just couldn't get it to the same level that a hand solderer could do. It may have been the assemblies we were trying it on. They were pretty intricate. Words are hard. They actually had tried to send them to Mexico, but the plant in Mexico got COVID, and then the quality went down. So they sent them back to us, and we got everything. It wound up. We just had to overtime 7 days a week for 3 months straight to get these things done. But it was, I wanted the solder robot to work. I really did, but it sucked real bad.
Do you still have it?
No, it's set on a shelf for a couple of years. And then we finally found somebody who wanted to buy it. And maybe they made better use of it than we did, but we could never get it to do the job that a hand solderer does. So, and that's been a few years ago. Maybe there's some advances in the technology, but, I still think a lot of that hand solder, especially on certain parts, it's just an art, and you gotta have somebody who's good at it.
I wonder if it's like a size thing, because robotic welding, like that's a thing. We have some customers that do a lot of robotic welding, but frankly, they do robotic welding because it's so big. I wonder if this is just a scale issue. Yeah.
It could be, yeah. Or it could be we're not very good with setting up solder robots. I mean, it might have been a perfectly great machine, and that's just not our bag. I don't know, but it didn't work out very well.
Did you try playing like some old German Kraftwerk music to it while it was trying to do its thing?
Of course we tried.
Just ideas here,
I don't know. But... Yeah. It responded well to reggae, but no. Yeah. Other than that, we don't use too many robots, but a lot of what we do in contract manufacturing, like we do low volume, high mix. So the array of things that go through in any given day, the setup on some of those things just isn't really workable for us. There's too much change that goes through to take advantage of some of that automation, but we keep trying. We'll see how it goes.
Random question for you. What do you guys think S&Y makes you guys unique, in your particular space? You're already doing a little bit more diversity than a normal EMS shop, moving into box builds as well, which is maybe not completely unique, but is, an interesting value add. What's distinct? Is it just a regional thing? You're distinct geographically, or you're distinct by ability, or you're distinct by what?
We do kind of, so I don't know, we talk to people about this at trade shows all the time, and they always want to know what makes us special. And I kind of just tell them it's really like, is it a good fit? Because it's manufacturing. Everybody you ask is going to say, well, our quality and our service, and it's probably true for most places, but capacity is big for us. We can handle some of the larger jobs, and that keeps us a little unique in some of the environments. But most of the time I tell people do you get along with us when we're working? Because I guarantee something is going to go wrong. So do you want to be in the trenches with us? We're going to make it right. We're going to work with you. We'll have a sense of humor along the way. Or is somebody else a better fit for you? Because there's a lot of work out there, and I don't really want to work with somebody that we don't like. And I don't think any of our customers want to, calling up their contract manufacturer. So
we have the same thing
really?
When we're qualifying, like a small manufacturer, we give the marriage speech to them, and not everybody does this, but different salespeople have their own version of it. I think a good number of people will give picking an ERP provider is kind of like a marriage.
Oh, I like the voice. Yes, perfect. Yes.
It's like, listen, just so you know, you're going to be stuck with us for a really long time. So if you don't like us, and frankly, if we don't like you, we're going to try to sabotage this thing, you should definitely sabotage this thing. Because if we're going to spend 20 years, taking phone calls and meeting up, and man, this is going to be awful if you don't like us and we don't like you.
And especially with you guys, like it is a big decision to change your ERP once you did it. Yeah, boy, if you don't like, another story of how we ran into you guys, we had a situation a lot like that. So we were with an ERP company. So we had the initial ERP and it was like DOS based. And we decided, I think it was 2020 that we needed to switch. And we picked this one. It was similar to SAP. It wasn't SAP, but click heavy, process heavy. They were smaller and they really wanted to make some enhancements that had to do with us, contract manufacturing for electronics. But then they got bought by a massive company and they didn't care anymore. And the relationship just went straight south. And it just happened to be about the time that the part shortage was hitting and we realized that we could not sustain this. And, I think it was Chintan. It was either Chintan or maybe Brant found you, who now works for CalcuQuote. And we got to looking at it and we took it into our owner and told her that we wanted to switch ERPs. And she said, didn't we just do this like 3 years ago? And we were like, yeah. It was like, didn't it cost us like $500,000? And we're like, yeah. She said, well, look at the balls on you. And then we did it. And honestly, it was a good decision. But I think Amanda, who is our director of project management, is still ready to kill me for doing that in the middle of the part shortage.
It was 3 years into the other one.
Yes. Yeah. It was 3 years. And but everything just went south all at once. And the key enhancement that they had for us, it had to do with substitute parts, because we didn't have any visibility down the line and it was killing us. A lot of the stuff you were talking about with, well, we don't know where else this part is used technically because it could be called something else. And how do we figure out if it's okay? And there is a way, but it's so costly time-wise that for the amount of stuff we needed to do, it couldn't happen. And we were ordering work order to work order. It was a nightmare. And we kind of looked at it and we saw the opportunity with the integration you guys have with CalcuQuote to handle our demand. And that was it. We were in. And it turns out I like the way that Cetec is set up. There's a lot of parts that I feel like they have the same function, but they feel lighter as you're using it, which when we're training new people, that's not a bad thing at all, especially with, you got to learn new screens. And why do you guys hear that a lot? Like, we have to learn new screens. Do people say that to you when they're talking about?
People talk about screens, like as though maybe they have like a different monitor for each function or something.
I think it's a big deal because a lot of people talk about it, but something about, well, I got to learn a new screen is like, it just keeps coming up. And it's like, okay, I guess.
I mean, I will say, like, where we are as a, product company is like, we've kind of gone through this race through to add all these features. And now we're working like on like over the horizon. The next thing is like make everything a whole lot easier and more fun. Can we use that word for ERP? More enjoyable, less painful.
With quotes.
Yeah. Like try to like what's the user experience gonna feel like? How intuitive can you make it? How fast can you make it for them? So I have a lot of sympathy actually on the number of screens. I remember the first time I saw, like Cetec in use, and they're talking about what they're doing and they're clicking around, they're moving through screens. Man, after 5 seconds, I have no idea where they are. I have no idea what's happening. You're just like nodding politely, trying to ask important questions. You're like, sure, whatever. I have no idea what they just said. So, I mean, I try to not forget that too much. I'm sympathetic to, like, there's too many screens. You're like, yeah, it's a lot. And you're like, here's an RMA now.
I want to I bet, I don't know, you've probably seen a lot of different ways that people use, like, the same stuff, like Cetec. Like, sometimes we get a little pigeonholed and, well, we do it this way, so this must be the way that it's intended to be used. And I'm pretty sure sometimes we're wrong, which is always kind of fun.
That's the coolest moments for, like, we host our user conference, Earpalooza, which is an enormous amount of work and a thing that we talk ourselves into canceling sometimes because it's an enormous amount of work. But the coolest thing that happens on that is those little open, in my opinion, the coolest things that happen, open session where you throw like some hapless Cetec employee in a room with a bunch of users who want to like show up with like questions and requests, like, hey, can we have a way to do this? Or, hey, how should we do this? And watching different people in the audience talk about what they're doing in like, oh, we do it this way. Oh, we do it this way. Oh, we do it this way. And like what comes out of that is it's gold, because you get this exposure to like, what are other people doing? Like, oh yeah, maybe we could actually cut out all these steps if I just do it this way. And so like having somebody up front who's like, don't do it that way because that'll kill you on this other thing. That right there, we recommend. This is a good, alternate option, and some kind of like referee, but like here it's awesome. And then occasionally you get somebody who's just angry who wants to yell about one specific thing. Then the other users start yelling at that.
I've said I'm sorry several times. Yeah, I think we've been to one. Amanda and I are going to come to this next one, which we're pretty excited about. So we've already got our tickets. We're ready to go.
Awesome. There you go. Airpalooza.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So yeah, Kansas barbecue or Texas barbecue?
Ooh.
I mean, obviously, I can't say Texas barbecue, and I feel like I'm going to offend some people, but I've had Texas barbecue. It's pretty good. I think Kansas City barbecue is better, and I know it's completely nostalgic and an opinion for me, but I'm actually from Oklahoma. Well, I was born in Kansas, but I grew up in Oklahoma, but I am kind of partial to Kansas City, so especially with the Chiefs. You guys have great barbecue. But like the worst barbecue I ever had was still pretty good. So,
it could be a lot worse.
You're not losing.
Yeah. Yeah. You could be doing a lot worse.
Oh no. Texas barbecue. Darn. Like, yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be delicious.
Do you get that where you are? Is that like a thing in small town Kansas that you might have like a shot at great barbecue?
Oh yeah. We've got one here in town. I think it's called, God, what is it? It's not, I've been there. It's not too far from my house.
Famous Days.
But yeah, they have great barbecue. God, I should Google it.
Pokey Joe's.
It kill me that I can't.
2 words. Chili's.
Bill Miller's.
Oh man, baby back ribs. Do they know how to kick it after 5 or what? I mean, good Lord. Let's see. Winfield Barbecue.
Huh? What do you got?
Boss Hogs.
Boss Hogs. Okay. That's great.
And they just opened up a little ice cream place in there called, like, I don't know, Millie Moos or Miley Mo's or some silly words like that. But they've got this blackberry cobbler ice cream that will change your entire life. And I don't like fruit and ice cream, but it's so good.
That's how I differentiate Texas barbecue is the sides and the dessert. It's like, I mean,
that's quite fair.
Yeah. That's
I have weird associations with Kansas City barbecue being very sweet, because I think my one exposure here was something where they believed in a heavy corn syrup sauce, and they were gonna do that number, which is, I realize that's not fair, but that just to confess my own exposure and where that comes from. So
I don't know all of the differences. I know that there are some, like one's more mustardy or whatever, but
Carolina,
like if it's delicious, when I put it in my mouth, then I'm okay. We've got a guy, our VP of engineering, one of his friends is part of a meat church. I think it's like a whole Instagram thing. But for Thanksgiving every year, we hand out turkeys, and then we will cook a bunch of turkeys and do a big dinner. And we talked him into smoking 3 of the turkeys.
Oh,
and
that's great.
Oh,
we should do that at the office. We have a couple microwaves, and we could
air fryers.
We could probably
yeah. Just totally doable.
Maybe sous vide one in the dishwasher. We got one of those too. So
I think
come
I
on
saw
down
on
for
Instagram
Thanksgiving.
somebody cooking chicken in the dishwasher. Somebody did it. It came out like all white and like rubber. It was very weird. Very weird.
That's great. Just pieces of chicken in the top rack.
Yeah. They like put it in a glass jar.
Chicken in the
Wings are going to the silverware guy.
Yeah. Oh, wings. Wings are my, yes. I take buffalo wings over barbecue any day. I love those things.
All right, that's amazing. You have any final questions you want to ask Matt? Matt, that was amazing. Thanks for your time. Nice to chat.
Yeah, fun.
Appreciate all that, and good luck up there. And we'll see you for ERPalooza in 8 weeks. So come.
Yeah, not too long. Yeah, get it together. We're about to be down there. It'll be fun.
Yeah. We'll plan something.
We have planned
All right.
a lot of things.
Well, cool.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Bye. Well, thanks to Matt Miers for joining us. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again next time on the Build Your Way podcast.
Like, subscribe, leave us a review, and if you have questions or any comments, email us podcast@ctecherp.com.